Okay, here's our Feedwater heater pictures. This down here is the actual tube sheet in a Feedwater heater. As you can see, there's a lot of tubes in here. That's why they have the baffles to get the steam to move across these tubes. This is the inlet part of it. This is the outlet behind this plate. Discharge headers up here. Our whiteboard drawing kind of showed this. But as you can see, there's a lot of tubes. These tubes here have been plugged off. Sometimes they'll plug and seal weld them. This was evidently a higher pressure Feedwater heater. So you can see there's a lot of tubes in these things. They use ultrasonic leak detection. You'll put pressure on the shell side, then use a acoustic leak detector, and you can locate tube leaks that way. You can also fill the shell side with water and look for leaks. Just another picture shows it a little better. See, there's a few plugged tubes. A lot of tubes. This is the inlet. The outlet up here looks about the same. This is Feedwater Heater 3. It's a low pressure Feedwater heater. I was on our condensate and video picture. These are the valves here. You have your bypass, inlet, and outlet block valves. The actual valves set underneath the deck. These have a rising stem indicator, so you can tell the position of the valve fairly easily. They also show up in the control room. A bypass panel sits back here. And this is feed water out, extraction steam coming in here. This is the steam turbine generator. We mentioned we have two low pressure steam turbines. These would be the two low pressure steam turbines here. The steam comes in the center, flows both directions on the rotor. From here it's exhausted down to the surface condenser. Generator sits back here. This would be low pressure turbine A, low pressure turbine B. Down here is the high pressure, intermediate pressure steam turbine. This Feedwater Heater 7, the last Feedwater heater in the series. Another view, Feedwater Heater 3. Extraction line coming in. Feedwater Heater 7. You can see the wheels on this end so they can move the shell off for maintenance. This is the level transmitter, Feedwater Heater 7. Have a high level switch. There's a float column with a float that has a magnet on it. This little iron indicator kind of sticks to the magnetic field and tracks the float up and down. Occasionally these things will fall off the magnetic field, so you have to take a magnet, pull it back up until it locks into the magnetic field. I believe this had a magnetostrictive level transmitter on it, so use the magnetic field to track the level. It's pretty accurate. Here's the control panel. This is about the only controls this has. We have a better picture of this coming up. This is the air valve, startup valve. Took air off the top of the Feedwater heater. A lot of the startup valves were painted yellow. It's just handy for operators to make sure they got all the startups open. This is the normal vent. It goes through an orifice plate. This goes down the surface condenser. This just keeps your Feedwater heater from getting airlocked. Down here you can see some of the drain valves on it. Another picture of the Feedwater heater. Kind of see the wheels, how it's made. Got a picture of Feedwater Heater 5, it's a little better. But these are made for maintenance. You have to take all the piping loose, unbolt it from the inlet and outlet section, and then you can slide this shell off and you get to all the tubes. Here's one of the control panels. You have a test and a reset button for your high level trips. Got your inlet valve, outlet valve, and your bypass valve. So if you had a bypass this Feedwater heater, you'd open the bypass, close the inlet, close the outlet. It'd take about minute or two for the motor operated valve to close. This shows another Feedwater heater. Here's the condensate coming out of the Feedwater heater. High level trip. Control panel. Here's your Feedwater coming in. Feedwater comes out on the top. This is Feedwater heater 5. This is Feedwater heater 6 level control valve. Anytime you're dropping high pressure hot water, you want your control valves close to where it's going. That way you don't flash a lot of steam in the pipe. Because this valve here is getting a pretty good pressure drop. So the water's flashing to steam in here. It's fairly common to put control valves like this down by the surface condenser. A place where the pressure is going to drop to minimize flashing of steam. Water hammer to the level column. Comes off the bottom to the top, gives you a pretty good range. Let's say occasionally this float will hang up in these things and you gotta go out and smack the column, try and knock the float loose. So just because you have a indication doesn't mean that's correct. You should always have several things you're looking at, like differential temperature across the Feedwater heater. This is the control panel. In our scenario of this Feedwater heater basically disintegrating inside, somebody had to come over here and operate those 3 valves that we showed in that one picture, the bypass, inlet, and outlet. Control room sits right back here. So the control room operator probably could have ran out and did this. But it's a good scenario to show you just what can happen. As you can see, we got more drain valves on the bottom for draining it. You can kind of see the marks in the floor where the Feedwater heater shell's been pulled off. They're on rollers. You can bolt it from the back end, take the piping loose, and then you can roll this whole thing out and get to the tube bundle. It has a relief valve on top. They'll have relief valves going back to a drain tank. Another picture of the Feedwater heater.